Hello everybody and welcome to Tallinn. Today we are going to talk about puppies. So let's say that you live in a rural area somewhere, with a big family and not much going on with your life, and all of a sudden this big family gets a new family member added, a puppy. Now, would you talk about this puppy with your brothers or sisters or whatever you would have in this very large family? Or would you talk about how your Uncle George still smells like fungus or stuff like that? No, you would talk about the puppy because it's a new thing. Why am I bringing this up? It has a little bit to do with this movie stirring up a bit of very, very silly controversy. The movie we're gonna talk about today is called The Beguiled. Let's take a look at this one. So, the year is 1864, Virginia. Miss Martha, played by Nicole Kidman, is ahead of a school for young women, which she has been able to keep up during the war despite, everything else that has been going on. And one day one of her students comes across a wounded soldier, Corporal McBurney, played by Colin Farrell. She takes him back and they try to figure out what to do with him because, well, he's an enemy soldier. Sheltering him is potentially dangerous. He's a man, so he will be a distraction to the female students. And but also, what's the Christian thing to do? I mean, he's a wounded man, and are they just gonna let him die? And so he gets to stay. And then, well, the problem is sort of when it happens after that, because this movie has a lot of great acting from Nicole Kidman and from Colin Farrell, some of the other students, and I guess Kirsten Dunst is in this movie also, but enough said about that. So the movie has good acting, good direction, good cinematography, excellent cinematography, I must add, and it also has I love movies that has a unique style to itself, and though this isn't Barry Lyndon levels of lightning sets, it is still one of the best lit movies I have seen for quite a while. The problem with this movie starts fairly early, and it is that this movie is so boring. When I finished watching this movie, and I was gonna going through some things about it, then I stumbled across the fact that this movie is only 93 minutes long. I said, come on, this movie cannot possibly be 93 minutes long. It felt 2 hours and 10 minutes because it was so boring. They milked out sequences that looked great, but then you have to follow it up with something that excites you or interests you or give you something that makes you want to stick around. And all these milked out, very dragged out long sequences amounted to absolutely nothing. Scenes that once again was very, very boring and very uninteresting. There is so much tension you could have in this movie. There is so much drama you could squeeze into a movie like this, but it sort of never happens. I grant that the last 15 minutes of this movie is good. They're really good. It lifts up the movie severely, but it is unfortunately too late. And then the ending happened. It is like a damp, wet fart, and I just didn't care about the corporal. I didn't care about the Miss Martha, Edwina, and the other girls. For some reason, they couldn't develop any characters that I was interested in. They attempted it a few times, but this movie sort of waited to happen, and then it started to happen, and then it sort of just finished. Maybe this wasn't for me, I guess, but I don't know. This movie is also another one of these proof, if proof has ever been needed, that 20 years and counting almost. Hollywood has effectively taken originality, put 2 bullets into its head and 1 bullet into the chest and bury it in 6 feet under, never to be seen again. So this is not exactly something new, but this is basically a remake of an old Clint Eastwood movie from the early 70s, which itself is based on a book. I haven't seen the Eastwood movie and I haven't read the book, so I don't know how close or unclose it follows it, but that doesn't really matter into my final verdict for. But let's talk about something else for a second. One of the reasons I was a little bit curious about this movie from the start, and it is that I read somewhere that there was a huge debate going on that this movie wouldn't, pass the Beguiled test. Now, the Beguiled test, for those who do not know it, was something that was devised in the 70s, named after some cartoonist or something like that, which sort of tells you how prestigious the Beguiled test is. The Beguiled test is essentially a test to see if a movie has equality between genders. So it would basically be the following: does the movie features more than one woman? If yes, then proceed to the next part. Do they talk to each other? If yes, move on to the third step. Do they talk about anything else than men? If yes, then it passes the Beguiled test. And does this movie pass the Beguiled test? Of course it fucking does! The criticism that this movie got was that an almost entirely female cast was talking about Colin Farrell. As I said with the puppy in the beginning, he's a new thing, he's an enemy, he's a man, he's something that they haven't seen in their very sheltered life for a long time. Of course they would talk about him, but do you know what else they talk about? They talk about the blockade, and they talk about French verbs, and they talk about the war, and they talk about music, and they talk about their work, and they talk about peace. They talk about a lot of stuff, and Colin Farrell, you idiots. And also, just hammering in the nail in the coffin on how incredibly stupid the Beguiled test is. The Beguiled test is also passed by the following movies: Lick It Good, Confessions of a Sinful Nun, My Stepmom Always Fucks Me in the Ass, Young Black Girls Only, and many other movies, essentially lesbian pornos. So, whatever argument you could muster up after that is invalid. By the way, speaking of pornos, getting slightly sidetracked here, but the plot of this movie, essentially, one man in a school for girls that has a slightly older hot teacher and a slightly older matriarch. That sounds like the concept for a porno. Adjust the age of the students just a little bit and you have an old school porno on your hand. And I've said about Beguiled test and lesbian pornos and stuff like that, and let's get to the grade instead. So I debated to myself a little bit. Despite having a strong finish and despite having a lot of talent behind the camera and in front of the camera, this movie never picked up in any way. It never got me excited. And all the interesting things they could have done and chose not to do made me go, ugh, a number of times in this one. The rating of 31 basically means that this movie is underwhelming. It has pockets of goodness into it, especially the last 15 minutes, which is good and a place where the movie should have gone far earlier or in a far different manner. In the end, this movie was not for me. So I'll say goodbye to you now from Tallinn, and this is the Vikstrand signing out.